biggest needs that I seen there were one, the coordinators get paid, right? So that's one of the different ideas.
Mhm.
The coordinators get paid $10,000. Where in the Little League, they have more of a board. So that's a big portion. And then the second biggest portion of the team was 4,500 for the
A year.
like and again we use for March to May.
Mhm.
And then there's other fees like the maintenance bar and the lights, all that, which I understand. But
Why are the girls taking the brunt?
or are these fees?
Or
Is it- I
what,
feel
why
like-
are there even those fees for the boys in charge? I mean, that's the
I
question.
just-
Does the
going
city
on
also
there?
have, does the city also have a team for boys?
Because the city, no, so the city is run through the Little League, is run through the Governor Howell, right? But they have.
And they have their own teams, and that's where the boys play. So the city has the girls team.
The rec center.
The rec
Yeah,
center.
but it's by the city.
It's probably part of the programming. If it's programming directly from the rec center, yeah, it's managed by the city. But they only have a girls team.
So there's several teams that you know,
Okay,
so there's like the 5 to 7 group, and then there's the 8 to 10, and then 10 to like 12.
okay, all girls.
All good.
Okay, I can ask.
That's a wow. That's a well for me. Holy cow. Okay.
We're good to go whenever you.
Right, okay. Why don't go ahead and call the planning commission regular meeting to order. At 6:05, we'll go ahead and get started. The first item is call to order. Sorry, roll call.
Let's do-
Present.
Here.
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 He's absent.
Okay, thank you very much. So we've got board president, myself, the chair, vice, Sergio Diaz, member Sandy Fuerte, member Roberto Cruz, and absent Lorenzo Sanchez. Thank you very much for the roll call, and then we'll go ahead and move along to the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Right. It's 6:07, and I'll go ahead and open it up for public comment. At this time, any member of the public may address the planning commission on items not appearing on the agenda and items of interest to the public that are within the jurisdiction of the planning commission. Public comments are generally limited to 3 minutes. The chair may further limit the time for public comments depending on the agenda schedule. Please be brief and to the point. No action or discussion shall be taken on an item not appearing on the agenda. Are there any public comments in person? No. Okay, and do we have any online? No public comments online either. Okay, on Zoom. Thank you very much. So we'll go ahead and close public comment 6:07. Next up, we have business. First item up, we have resolution number 2026-01, a resolution of the Soledad Planning Commission recommending that the City Council of the City of Soledad approve and accept the 2025 General Plan Annual Progress Report and authorize submittal to the State of California Department of Housing and Community Development and the Governor's Office of Land Use and Climate Innovation.
Yes. Thank you, Chair, Planning Commission, Ariana Mora with the City of Soledad. I'll be sharing my screen briefly to show the presentation. We did add the presentation to your iPads. If you swipe to the right, I believe from right to left, or sorry, left to right, you'll be able to follow the presentation on the iPad as well. Give me one moment while I present the item here. Okay. So as mentioned, we'll be presenting the general plan annual progress report. Just as a key item, this is a progress report from the city to the planning commission. And then the next phase of this progress report is to send it to the city council for formal adoption. And then we will be submitting to the state housing and community development, as well as the Office of Planning and Climate Innovation, which is LCI. So that is the ultimate goal for the action tonight. The purpose of which I went into is to provide an update and status of the implementation of the general plan. As you may know, we are going through a general plan update for the 2045 horizon year. But because we haven't adopted the general plan just yet, we are still focusing on the 2005 general plan, which has multiple policies and programs that the city focused in 2005 to complete throughout the 20 years up until 2025. The four primary purposes are to, again, evaluate progress, identify areas where the city can improve or where we're being very effective on, and kind of recap of what has been accomplished. Demonstrate how land use decisions align with the general plan. So where have the actions that have brought forward to the planning commission, the big picture, how have they helped the city overall? And then a progress report reporting the regional housing needs, which is RHNA. And I won't really touch on the RHNA numbers. That's more of the housing units, which is the presentation after this one. So the purpose of this one is to talk more of the land use initiatives and programs, and housing will have its own item after the presentation. As I mentioned, we are working on our general plan update. The goal is to update our general plan this year. We have worked in 2025, we've worked a lot with our general plan steering committee, which is a group of local stakeholders that includes the Soledad Health District. It includes MST. It includes the Unified School District, as well as community members that are interested in the land use policies and programs that we are currently working to update. So that has been the big key there. And also we worked a lot on the environmental impact report for that general plan. So a lot of progress has gone on the technical side on 2025. The goal for 2026 is to update this general plan and make it a new guiding document for the city for us to recap on a yearly basis. And then here are some brief pictures of the engagement that was done with the steering committee. We proposed the land use map, circulation maps, which were also reported to the community. And by engaging our local stakeholders, it allows us to also view the issues and concerns that they're having with their agencies, you know, such as the health district. There's not enough health services in the city. Now that we're thinking population, what does that lead to? And ultimately, it can lead to more programs and policies within our general plan to help create more health opportunities for the health district and the community. Other major highlights include economic development. So we did see a finalized tractor supply in Panda Express last year. So that was a really big win for Soledad, as its commercial development is something that the community has emphasized a lot on. And so 2025, we opened up a new Panda Express as well as a new tractor supply. And then Quick Quack was also entitled to go into the Soledad marketplace. So there was some activity happening in the south end of town, which, as you're familiar with, these projects first came over to Planning Commission, were reviewed and conditioned accordingly. Then we have infrastructure and CIP projects, which are capital improvement projects. The biggest one is, you know, we received our ladder truck, our fire ladder truck, and we did a new fire app bay. We did receive some funding for that, if I'm not mistaken. We received funding for the fire truck, and then some of the remaining funds for the fire bay. But we did complete that in 2025, which is a big win for Soledad, because it allows us to now develop higher and have denser housing now that we have sufficient services for our fire department. We also started the Purple Pipe Project through the Public Works Department. This is a recycle water project that aims to recycle water for the local parks here and as well as some of the parks in the school district to become a more sustainable community and city as a whole. And another project, as you see, it's mural and artwork that the city has been ongoing for the past 2 years, actually, but the biggest one was the Fire Bay apparatus mural was completed in 2025, also based on funding that I believe Chris Supervisor Lopez provided to the city to make this happen. Furthermore, a lot of activity happened with the Parks and Rec and more community services. It was the year of music in the park. So a lot of recreational opportunities provided by the Parks and Rec department, as well as increasing services in the community center and renovating its kitchen to hopefully fund an incubator kitchen where local businesses are able to utilize those services. That's still pending and in the process, but the ultimate goal is to now have a commercial kitchen available in the community center. Another program that was implemented was several infrastructure or street programs that focus on transportation and safety, pedestrian safety. The Safe Routes to School program was implemented, and this is through the Public Works Department, where we're partnering a lot with the Unified School District to see what areas need improvements and identify intersections to help reduce traffic collisions and improve pedestrian safety. Those items have been identified by the Safe to Route School program, and engagement was ongoing through the entire year of 2025. And the goal is to compete for grants that help us implement these safety measures into those intersections that were identified. So there was also a traffic workshop that was done last year to help with that. And then another big community service partnership was with Monterey County Health, and then the city of Soledad to help with Narcan availability and having a what is it called, the
Dispenser?
dispenser free for the community for those that need it. It's located at the fire department, so there was an opening for that as well to help with those services. Overall, in 2025, the city continued the implementation of the general plan by those projects. Those are the big key projects that we are reporting to the state and how they relate to the general plan, their specific policies that were provided in the report. A lot of these help advance housing, land use, and infrastructure objectives. If we're preparing to update new sewer lines, new infrastructure, new streets, it helps us with the new growth that's happening throughout Soledad and any local growth, such as higher density in different neighborhoods. Again, maintaining consistency with state law. One of the big things that we also came forward to the Planning Commission was the zoning amendments through the REAP 2.0 program, where multiple zoning amendments were proposed to help streamline housing. And then we also approved the Parks Master Plan, which is something that was is a requirement for our local development and local city to have standards to see how we want to see our parks, what we want our parks to have. Again, we continue the Siempre Soledad 2045 updates, which will be coming back to the Planning Commission for final review and adoption before it is formally adopted by the City Council. The goal is to package the report that was attached to the staff report and send it to HCD and LCI for compliance. A failure to not submit this report to the state puts us into a position where we might not be able to qualify for future grants. So the state wants to know that we're meeting our general plan goals in order for us to continue getting state funds for any other infrastructure projects or other planning projects that we have in mind. And then with that, I conclude my presentation. If you have any questions or would like to go through some of the information provided, I'm happy to answer.
Sergio?
No question.
No,
No,
not at
sir.
this time.
No
Thank you.
questions. Okay. So we'll move to, motion to approve, right? Okay, so I'll go ahead and, set a motion to approve. Can I get a motion to approve? Oh, sorry. Resolution number 2026-01, a resolution of the Soledad Planning Commission recommending that the City Council of the City of Soledad approve and accept the 2025 General Plan Annual Progress Report and authorize submittal to the State of California Department of Housing and Community Development and the Governor's Office of Land Use and Climate Innovation. Can I get a motion to approve?
We have three parts.
No.
Oh.
Just.
I motion.
So a motion by Mr. By Robert, Cruz. Can I get a second motion? Second motion by Ms. Sandy Fuerte. All right, can I get a, all in favor? Aye.
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 Okay, so 4 ayes, one absent and no, nays. And the motion has been approved for resolution number 2026-01.
Thank you.
Okay, so next up, we have resolution number 2026-01, a resolution of the Soledad Planning Commission recommending that the City Council of the City of Soledad approve and accept the 2025 Housing Element Annual Progress Report and authorizing submittal to the State of California Department of Housing and Community Development and the Governor's Office of Land Use and Innovation.
Hi, Chair. Name is Kimberly. So as far as the housing element, we are also, local agencies have to prepare and submit the annual report to LCI and HCD as well. The annual progress report covers the city's 2023 to 2031 housing element that was adopted in 2024 and summarizes the activities that were undertaken in 2025. The report doesn't amend any policy, but it just evaluates performance on the implementation of housing policies. This report also must be submitted to HCD by April 1st of every year. As mentioned, the housing element APR, it tracks and monitors the city's progress in the implementation of any housing goals, policies, and programs. HCD requires the use of standardized tables for the housing element that shows the city's progress towards meeting the RHNA. The allocations are shown in table 2. The city was assigned their allocations by AMBAG, which categorizes the housing goals by the income categories that you see in the table. In table 2, you'll also see how the housing production has been steady, showing progress in different types of housing. During 2025, the city issued 41 ADU permits and one 20-unit multifamily project that reflects a small scale of housing development. Additionally, there were 33 housing units received and that received a final certificate of occupancy, finalizing them and bringing additional homes for our residents. I will discuss a little more about the different programs as noted in the housing element. During the 6th cycle, the city made progress by having major housing programs, including land purchases, new housing, homelessness initiatives, and funding applications. Under our H1 category of adequate sites, the city got an acquisition of land of 540 Gabilan. Eden Housing has been selected as the developer, in which 143 units have been proposed, and the city is currently negotiating an exclusive agreement with Eden to advance the project and begin to advance the project through the entitlement and financing. Under our second category, H2 of the development, we've been able to have several affordable housing options, and it's been possible through the adoption of the pre-approved ADUs, in which the city has issued the 40 building permits and the 32 certified occupancies. Under the third category, the H3 Housing for All, we have the Youth Homeless Demonstration Program. This program was created to expand the housing services and reduce homelessness in the South County. Specifically, the city partnered with agencies to be able to bring those funds to South County. The program, which is the YHDP, the Youth Homelessness Demonstration Program, began in August of 2025 and it ended in December of 2025, which during that time, it assisted 12 households and services were provided. But although the program ended, the city was able to reapply to new funding for the 2026 to 2027 year. And if we are awarded, then the city is able to reinstate that program and provide additional services to that population. Additionally, we have the encampment, which the encampment that was located in the riverbed has been resolved, and the two individuals that were in the encampment were either sent to a motel through a motel program, or they were in the provisional encampment that was operated by the city. And then they were waiting in either program until the construction of the site was ready to go. And then as of December 2025, 14 participants of the 42 that were in the encampment have been housed. And lastly, we have the first time home buyer program, which supports the community stability of assisting households in overcoming the barrier to homeownership. The city allocated 300,000 of the CDBG program income and has also submitted additional funding for the 500,000 through home, and they're now waiting for the award notification. Overall, in 2025, the city issued 41 ADU building permits and 120 unit multifamily project. 33 certificates of occupancy were finalized. Additionally, there was a land acquisition with a proposed of 143 units, and new funds are underway to meet the housing needs of the community.
And with that, we'll open it up for questions and comments.
On the encampment, how many individuals have been housed?
14.
14 out of the,
There was 42 initially that were found in the encampment, and 14 of them were housed.
Mhm. Is it because they had to meet some criteria or qualify or?
No, every individual is at a different stage in their housing journey. So our providers, they work with the challenges that they have. So everybody just has a different path that gets them to housing.
Mhm. So it's progressive, and
Yeah.
the goal is to get the 42.
Yeah. Yes, of course. If there's any other challenges that they're going, then typically they address the challenges if housing is not the first option.
Thank you. Any question, other question? Mhm.
It could be questions or comments. We can take both of them.
So. What I saw in one of the reports that we had, some low-income units built. Were those the viviendas or, is that what we're taking into account?
No, it's the new land acquisition that we got, the 540 Gabilan, and it's a proposed 144 units.
But through the chair, if I can add, on this table, the units that were actually produced, we did have a few that were produced through a project that was entitled a while ago. It's the apartments on 8th Street. That's a 20-unit multifamily project. It was entitled a while ago, but it received a temporary certificate of occupancy last year. And as part of the inclusionary housing ordinance, they were subject to having some affordable units within the market rate development. And that's where you see on this table in 2025, one very low income unit that came from that project, the one low income unit, the two low income units that's also from that project, and then two moderate that's also from that project. So they were subject to 5 affordable housing units as part of the affordable housing plan.
Yeah, I actually, what caught my eye was the above moderate, which is again, what we've been doing consistently and do it very well above moderate.
Mhm.
What I was concerned with was the low numbers on the low income, which is again, we're not meeting arena numbers, right?
Yes, and most of Las Viviendas, the last year that we counted Las Viviendas was in 2024. That was the last round of condos that were finalized. It was in 2024. This year, in 2025, we don't see as many units, but we did entitle projects that have affordable housing units within the project. It's just that they're in the early stages. They still need to break ground. So I feel that 2025 was a year where we implemented a lot of programs. I don't know if you remember the previous years when we were doing these reports, we didn't really talk about any programs. It was just numbers. So last year we implemented a lot of programs, but housing production is not on the final stage. It's on the early stage. We've had some small lot subdivisions that were approved. And those are gonna come online in that, hopefully within this RENA cycle. The plan is that they're part of this RENA cycle, but they're in the early stages of the plan development. We will see more numbers in the upcoming years, but this one was a tough year for affordable units. But it was a very successful year with new programs.
Yeah, initiate. So when are we projecting to have these low income properties be available for rent for sale? Do you know off the top of your head?
No, I know they are able to, they have already received, occupancy, so they are able to move in people. But as soon as they get someone interested into those affordable housing units, they need to submit that paperwork and information to the city, right? Because we need to verify that they're qualified under that income bracket. When you, also talk about the affordable units with the entire RENA cycle, in our housing element, we have the housing pipeline projects that we have to show that based on the projects that are in the queue, we're going to meet those affordable housing units.
Do we have the estimate of how many are supposed to be built in 2026?
Yes, we're supposed to be or up into 2030. Oh, 2026, we don't just yet. We have for the entirety of the 2031, which we're supposed to meet go a little bit over the 724 housing units that the RENA says, and that we will be meeting the very low and moderate goals, or actually very low and low housing units. We might be shy a few units with a moderate, but that's how we depend on housing programs, or not housing programs, sorry, housing projects that come in to make sure they comply with the minimum requirement of the very low and moderate affordable housing requirements. But projects that Kim mentioned that are underway that we're hoping that would help bridge these gaps would be the 540 Gavilan project, which is proposing 143 housing units, all at a either very low or low income level, which by 143, you're already closing out on one of those categories.
So when you state that the city is facilitating that project, what does that mean? Like the 540, yeah, but like, I
What does
understand
that
that the
entail?
city acquired the land, so what else is the city doing for this project?
That's a big part of facilitating the project. So for the developer to not have to purchase the land, that keeps their cost low, and it also is leverage for them to secure funding. So a big portion for affordable housing is that when we have existing lots, if the city is able to RFQ, send a request for quotes or proposals for nonprofit developers, having the land is one of the biggest leverages that we can provide as an entity. The other part is that we also support, the developer is responsible for securing funding, but we are really partnering with them to make sure that when they're submitting applications for funding, that we are either a co-applicant or a supporter in their application, so that they can see that it's a strong commitment also for the city. So when it comes to developing those very low and low income units, the best thing that a jurisdiction can do, like the strongest strategy, is to offer the land. So now we have that.
The land was purchased?
The land
Or
was
was it-
purchased by the city. It was privately owned in the past. So we had, during COVID, we'd received some ARPA funding, and we also had a little bit of money from the successor agency. So we used the funding that we had from those two, ARPA was a funding source, and then we had a little bit of funds with the successor agency. We merged that funding to purchase the land in early 2024, and the RFQ to select a nonprofit developer was, we opened it last year, and we just selected the developer in January of this year.
Besides the land, is the city still going to be allocating more resources towards the projects?
It's hard,
Financially?
and it's hard to allocate resources financially. The most that we can do, and that's why we want a developer. So the developer that we picked is Eden Housing. In part of the RFQ, a very strong portion of that was their financing plan. So that's why we don't look for a builder. We look for a developer that also knows how to look for funding, because otherwise we have taxpayer dollars that we cannot just allocate to one particular project. We are being proactive about securing like the pro housing designation or making ourselves competitive as a jurisdiction so that nonprofit developers can have a better chance of securing funding. But it's hard to commit funding from our general public to just one project.
And this is all state funding that comes through tax credit programs or things like that. The other way that I can think of the city partnering, and this is what our housing element calls for, is to help streamline permits, to help with any streamlining the impact fees that you may have to pay or things like that the city can control. Not more so taking the payment or the cost of it, but help the developer get the project done, and then the rest we can figure out towards the end. I think that's the private partnership or private-public partnership that you see with developments, because sometimes you do need the assistance of the city in terms of streamlining the permit, an effort to get the housing built faster.
And it's hard to project what the production is going to be each year, because construction has a lot of different elements that impact their timeline. It could be funding, it could be also the market. So we don't have an exact projection for 2026. Our projections go until 2031. But I know that at least for the Eden Housing project, the way that they're structuring it is that it can be built in phases or it can be built all at once, depending on the funding available. But those projects, used to give you a sense, they can take up to 5 years. So it's a long process, but we have already started the process we are trying to make sure that we complete the project within this RHNA project. The other big housing project or significant housing project that we have is the school housing. So it's gonna have some affordable units for low, very low and moderate. And most of the units are gonna be for workforce housing, which is also a gap in our community. So that's the other one that we want that project to be completed this year. We're working closely with them to make sure that we are streamlining as much as possible. And we recently entitled Parcel B, which is a small lot subdivision. We hope that Parcel E and Parcel B can have some traction this year, so that hopefully that's privately owned. So those can move a little bit faster. So hopefully within the next 2-3 years, we can see some units built.
So the teacher housing, that was one of my questions. The teacher housing, is that going to be included in our RHNA numbers? Decreasing our.
A portion of it. So because they are workforce housing, which is also a gap for some professionals that make a little bit more than just minimum wage. That doesn't count under that well, some of it could count under moderate, not all of them. They do have a small amount of units that are required to follow under low and very low, but most of them are going to be considered about moderate because it's workforce housing that goes up to 160 of the area median income. And in order to stay within moderate for rental units, you have to be 80% area median income.
And I think based on their construction timeline, I think their goal is to finalize that this year. So if they do end up finalizing it before December of 2026, we can see and bring those numbers for the year of 2026 for those housing units.
And then another question that I had, and I think it was brought up earlier. The one housing unit that was purchased was it also for workforce?
Yeah, that was gonna be my question. So thank you, Joseph.
Yeah, so the city did purchase a 1-bedroom from Las Viviendas. We kept it at workforce housing because the city is having a hard time retaining some of the engineered, we first thought about it for first responders to help with recruiting for police officers. Because we noticed that a big challenge for some of our police officers was to find housing here. And if they were already here, sometimes they will leave to other jurisdictions. So the first tier that has a priority is first responders. If nobody from that tier wants the unit or is interested in the unit, then we can go to essential workers. And that includes, for example, our engineers. It could be it's more of the mid-management positions that we have had a hard time retaining. We find people, but they tend to leave. So it's an incentive to keep our workforce. But that also doesn't count under moderate because it goes up to 160 area median income.
Not sure if I should ask it in this portion or during the staff report, but going back to the housing for schools,
Mhm.
can you explain again the numbers? You said there was no very low or low income?
For the school housing project, no, there is, I need to remember this.
I
I
think
think we
there's
have-
2 low and 1 moderate
Okay.
for affordable housing units, out of the 20 units. And that's just because the affordable housing ordinance that we have requires 20% of the total base numbers of units. By that, I mean, like if there's a density bonus requested, those additional units that are allowed doesn't count towards the affordable housing calculation. So they were required to have 3. And 20% is actually pretty high for our area. Usually there's 15%, so we do have a pretty high requirement for jurisdictions. Mhm.
So maybe this question is not appropriate here, but I'm starting to get text messages, right, about surveys,
Mhm.
about propositions for taxes for the city, because the city's growing, they're building. Do you have any information about that as far as what's being proposed to be on the ballot? Because I know I get one for like firefighting, and there's another one.
We do, but it's outside of the purview of this item. So right now, I'm happy to answer that question. But for this item, for the item that we're discussing right now, it's outside the purview of that item.
I'm talking about like building and continue building, so that's.
Ye-
why I bring it up there.
Yeah, I can see the connection. Yeah, but happy to answer that question. But I just want to make sure that we stay within the the purview of this item. Sorry.
Any other questions? Ms. Leffler, do you have questions?
No, not at the moment. Thank you.
Okay. So then we'll go ahead and move to motion to for resolution number 2026 -02. A resolution of the Planning Commission recommending that the City Council of the City of Soledad approve and accept the 2025 Housing Element Annual Progress Report and authorizing submittal to the State of California Department of Housing and Community Development and the Governor's Office of Land Use and Innovation. And can I get a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion to approve.
All right, motion to approve by Mr. Roberto Cruz. Can I get a second?
I'll second it.
Second motion by Vice Chair Sergio Diaz. And can I get A's? Again, A's. Aye.
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 Okay, so we have 4 ayes, 0 noes, 1 absent, Lorenzo Sanchez. Resolution number 2026-02 is approved. Okay, next up, we move on to commission members' announcements and reports.
Aye.
No report. I have no report. Nothing. Okay, we'll go ahead and close out commission members and reports. Move on to community and economic development report.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to make sure that you are brought up to speed with some of the initiatives that the Community and Economic Development Department is working on. A big one that involves economic development is that we are planning a series of a concept similar to a pop-up event. We're calling it El Mercadito. It's gonna be a market where local vendors can either, well, the strategy behind that is that we want to make sure that businesses that are home-based are receiving the guidance that they need if they need to get a business license, but they're also staying local in that they're getting some business here in our downtown. So they're gonna be displayed at the downtown at the Cesar Chavez Park. We're still working out the details, but we hope that we can make this project happen this year. And this is in collaboration with SBDC and the Soledad Chambers that are key partners to make sure that this moves along. The other thing, we're still working on the container village. We are trying to secure funding for the pre-development stages. So Tencia, our community economic coordinator, she's been putting a lot of work towards that. So hopefully in the near future, we're here talking about the plans for the container village. The encampment resolution, I think Kimberly did a great job at summarizing what has happened during the housing element programs. So now we actually have moved the participants that were at the motel and the ones that remain unhoused. We moved them, everybody is sheltered at the Sendero interim housing site. So we don't have any unsheltered residents. And well, we have a few transit, but nobody who is camping outside that we are aware of. So the participants that were some participants that we had at the motel program before the Sendero modular interim site was built, some of them transitioned into permanent housing out of the motel program, and some others transitioned into permanent housing from the provisional encampment that we had created at 990 Los Coches, where now Sendero has been built. So we will be sending out an invitation for the grand opening to your email. So just stay on the lookout for that one. We hope to do the grand opening next month. We'll send a calendar invite soon. The YHDP program, the Jude program demonstration, the Jude homelessness demonstration program. We started it last year. You may or may not remember that this was in strategy because the funding was allocated to an agency through the continuum of care was allocated to an agency that had to leave the area. Kimberly, our new management analyst, that I think you're seeing her first presentation tonight. She used to work for that agency that left the area, and she happened to manage that program. So the city was approached to see if we could take on that funding so that we can at least help some families. Otherwise, the funding was going to be unused. So we decided to jump on that, and we were able to support 12 families. Not all of these families are homeless. Some of them are at risk of homelessness, and this is for young families, the ages between 18 and 24. So we implemented the program we received the funding in August, but really implementation started in September. And from September to December, we were able to help 12 families. We are hoping that we reapplied for this funding for this year, and we have submitted the application. We hope that we are awarded again, because what we notice is that for some of these services, the most important piece is to make sure that we have comprehensive and wraparound services for a few months. Helping somebody for a month or two, it's not really helping them get back on their feet. We need a little bit more than that. And landlords are more amenable to the program when you're able to commit to at least 6 months, so that they know that people are either finding a new job or finding a supplemental source of income. We will bring more updates on this one. The general plan, we're still working on it. We hope to adopt it this year. We did have a meeting with our new steering committee. We have a very diverse membership within that steering committee, and they are very engaged. The previous committee was also engaged, but it was just interesting to see how diverse the membership was. So we hope that we can continue to get them involved and get their feedback has been very valuable. The marketplace, Ariana explained that we are working with QuickQuack to try to see if they can break ground this year soon, in the upcoming weeks, hopefully. We do have 2 hotels that are interested in coming in the area. We have met with them. We have provided some direction, and we hope that they get back to us on some of the things that they need. Almond Acres, actually, that's probably the most relevant to Planning Commission. Hopefully in the next month, Ariana, will you say that that's accurate? In the next month, or for next month, we're able to bring this subdivision before Planning Commission. This particular project is proposing 55 single-family dwelling units. Those are smaller lots, which by design tend to be affordable. The smaller the lot, the less expensive. But it also includes 12 multifamily housing units. That's in partnership with Chispa. So Chispa will be responsible for building the multifamily portion of it, and then Nino Homes is responsible for building the single-family dwelling units. We will hopefully have an entitlement packet to present to you in the near future. Miramonte, we're still working on finalizing the developer agreement. Our goal is to try. There's a lot of different factors that come into play, but hopefully by the summertime, we can have the developer agreement finalized. And those are my updates. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Any questions on the Community Economic Development Department activity report?
Yes, on the encampment, and you mentioned it earlier, that 14 people have been housed. Is that housed in the temporary lodging or housed?
Permanently housed. And at the Sendero side, we have 14 people as well.
We have 15 individuals. And the 14 participants that were housed, they were housed in market rate apartments throughout the county, just depending on their preference and where availability of the units occur.
Yeah, we lost contact with a couple from so the 42 participants came from the point in time count from 2024. With this demographic, is usual to lose contact with some people. Some people come in and out of Soledad because South County tends to be home for most people. So if they have relatives in Greenfield or King City, they might transit around. So we lost contact with a few of them, but yeah, so far 15 at the Sendero interim housing site and 14 have been permanently housed.
What's being done so the encampment doesn't set up again in the bridge?
That's a shout out for PD. It's enforcement. PD has been very proactive, and they also let us know when people are starting to hang out there. They notify us. We did have another encampment that was identified last year towards the end of the calendar year. It was outside of the city limits. It was county jurisdiction, and there was another area that felt more like a hangout location. So we notified the sheriff office, and because we have been working very closely with their homeless strategies division, they sent the sheriff office and they removed the structures. I think they removed the structures probably early January. Yeah, early January. So when we did the point in time count on January 29, we didn't find any structures at the riverbed or at the new location that we had identified.
I mean, how about the RV and the vehicles that tend to park across, not in the grocery outlet parking lot? But, and there are some that do park in the grocery outlet. Okay, we do see it. I shop there, so I see it. I go to the theater there and I do see that. And then also across the street, so DaVita's here, and then the sidewalks here in between the DaVita and the Panda Express. There's usually an RV that parks there, and it's just there. And then there's usually a car parked either behind it or in front of it. And actually the grocery outlet, the new owners had asked about what could be done about that, because it deters some of the, shoppers. And that was one of the biggest reasons why our previous owners from that store left, because of the encampment, and they were struggling with shoplifting and people hanging out and things like that. So just kind of wondering about, what is being done. I know we have to have empathy, but at the same time, when, people are taking advantage of the situation, I guess that's the best way to say it, given their current situation, and impacting other members of the community at large. How is that being dealt with?
If cases are being reported, we can always say in code enforcement, we really try to provide services or linkage referrals. So you can always call, now Edith is our new homeless outreach coordinator. the property owner, we had a very close relationship with the previous owners. My understanding was different of the reason why they left, but we had a very close relationship. They used to even send us some footage on when they were having issues. Um, contrary to what some people may think, it was rarely our clients, it was rarely our participants. I think overall nationwide, small shoplifting has increased. I mean, I think people are experiencing a very difficult economic situation. It's not an excuse, but I think overall we've seen that. But if you have any vehicles that you want to report, you could, we prefer to first offer services before doing enforcement. We do have a housing first vision that we implement to the Encampment Resolution Fund, and that I think the reason we are the program that has been the most successful with driving people into permanent housing. And a big reason for that, we think it's because we first offer services. If people decline services, then we go to enforcement, which is what we did with the new encampment that was found farther down the river. But you can always call our division. We can always try to first offer them services. And if that's not working, we can always do a report for code enforcement.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I know it's a tough job. My brother did it in Fresno for about 2 years. And it is tough because some of them just don't want the housing. They don't want to follow the rules, etc. So I get it. But at the same time, you know, you have to do a limit for everything. We help some, we lose some, and some just don't want to participate at all.
Yeah, and then to add on also the traffic, because sometimes if you come out of the shopping center, you can't see the intersection that's right there because there's semis or larger trucks being are parked there. And that it has been brought up to the Public Works Department's attention. And I think what they're working on is on reevaluating the streets and intersection as the development comes in. So we have anticipation that the hotel Holiday Inn will be going next to Panda Express. And so upon them submitting offsite improvement plans, they are able to also implement new traffic enforcement measures, whether is red curb parking at the intersection or anything like that as the projects come in.
And that's good. Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? All right.
I was just gonna ask, you said that you met with several hotels or two. Can you share who they were besides Holiday Inn?
Only with two interested projects, and Ariana has more details on that one.
Yeah, so one of them was Holiday Inn that we've been meeting with them. They do owe a site plan and architectural review packet, which has to get planning commission review and approval. So they need to come back this way to present the project. Which is the one example I was giving based on the previous question. The other one, we haven't received an application just yet on it. There's interest in a hotel. We haven't confirmed the brand of the hotel. And the location is still to be undisclosed. Is that the right? Because there's no formal application. And there's a lot of things pending. And before we mention it out in the public, we want to make sure things are going to move.
And that is above and beyond the sale of the Motel 8 that is like just kind of sitting there depending on what's going on. Because because it's starting to look really bad now. I drove by there today on the way over here and I thought something's got to be done because, you know, that's if you guys have read The Tipping Point, right?
Yeah.
When things are not taken care of, that's when things tip either to the positive or to the negative. And, you know, it's looking pretty.
Yes.
It needs maintenance.
Yeah, we're reaching out to the commercial real estate agent because right now that they are working on selling the property, they should be responsible for maintaining some of the weed abatement and that. Yeah, so we just talked about that last week. So we're reaching out to the commercial real estate agent. And the other one, even though we don't have a name yet, it's probably the same category as the Holiday Inn. It's along the same size, the same. It's not so much of a motel model. It's more like a Holiday Inn category.
And then to address the situation with the selling of the motel, I think one of the priorities or one of the priorities from the city council just recently approved a strategic plan that has a lot of goals for the city that has it classified under urgent, semi-urgent, or in the long-term future. And one of the goals is to really enhance downtown. And one of the entrances and gateways to downtown is that area. So in order for us to really try to revitalize our downtown area, we also have to focus on those entryways into downtown. And that would be one of the goals, to continue partnership with those new owners and making sure that everything's up to code and whatever services they need, not us giving to them, but have them reach out to other resources or anything that they may need, help streamline if they need to build, or see how our economic development can increase with those partnerships.
And then just marketing our city, driving back from my visit, I saw the Gonzalez sign.
Mhm.
Got some sign envy there, but, for our city, but just, I don't know, that was something or something we can or cannot do, you know, at some point. That was one. The other one, and I think I've addressed it with maybe both of you, which is, you know, the fences that are going up around the city that, you know, are in the front yards of people.
Mm.
You know, they're either cyclone fences that are taller than 6 feet. Maybe they have the privacy of the, you know, to the 5 foot or whatever, or 3 feet, and then they have cyclone fence surrounding everything else, and then with signs on the inside, wood for sale or whatever. So I'm just wondering what's going on about those things, and then, you know, some of the other fences that have gone out, which are full wooden fences with, you know, in the front yard. And
Mhm.
I'm wondering if they're even permitted or not. That was one thing. And then just once again to talk about, you know, the parking of the different semis in different areas, you know, even seeing them in a lot of the neighborhoods just
Mhm.
parked, you know, we already have a parking issue, but just looking at the weight of those trucks, you know, the wear and tear on the roads, infrastructure that we have doesn't always, you know, is able to sustain that, I think, given what we have seen so far. So, well, what can be done about it? Or is it being addressed, or is that code enforcement again?
It is code enforcement. Code enforcement needs support, so we are we are trying to outsource some of the biggest or more complex code enforcement violations, so that our internal code enforcement can focus on those neighborhood improvements. Because even though, yes, it's a big problem, I think this is something that can be done in-house, but they also need to build their capacity. So right now, we're working with them to help them outsource the more complicated cases that take a lot of their time, so that they can focus on this neighborhood initiatives. Yeah.
And then I had a citizen ask about around New Year's, actually. They were upset because they have a grandson, they live on Andalusia, and they found out that I'm a planning commissioner. So they came and they asked, you know, what can be done to get speed bumps on Andalusia, because it's a big thoroughway. And it's true, I live on Andalusia. And, you know, when the gentleman talked about it, he's all like, I have a little grandson who plays outside in the front yard, and these cars just blow past the stop signs. They run down the street, you know, they come revving their cars. And he says there's no speed bumps. And he goes, and a lot of kids walk down that street. We have, you know, Eden Valley on the other side of us. Those the high school kids come down, the middle school kids come up, you know, and then, you know, there are other families with small children. So he wanted to, and I told him, well, just come and talk to somebody. And he's all, no, he goes, I'm going to use you as my rep. So I was trying to get him to write a letter and come personally and talk to you guys, but he said, no. He goes, I know you please go ask. I need, you know, for not just from my grandson, but for the other children who are playing up and down. What does this neighborhood need to do to get speed bumps? Because it is a long street that comes, and even though we have the Glorieta coming in, it has not stopped. There's still enough roadway to go fast down that street. So just, he was wondering.
Yeah. So and this is coming from the Public Works Department, which they're the ones that deal more with the infrastructure and traffic. Speed bumps have to be analyzed because of traffic, just to make sure it doesn't interfere with other traffic intersections and things like that. But it's also an emergency situation. You know, when you have ambulances or fire trucks that need to go through there, it could slow down their response time. If you have someone on the ambulance, and they can't be moved for whatever reason, and there's a speed bump, you have to go very carefully through there. So there's a lot of, I guess for us, we're thinking more on the emergency side, but also there's a traffic analysis that needs to be done to really assess, is this where a speed bump is able to go through? So I think what I could suggest is having some, or depending if I'm just speaking out loud here, but having a presentation from Public Works based on the efforts that they did through the Safe to School Routes program and their 8-SIP program about the local improvements that they found through the engagement that they did. That way, we also see if we have to include one of the other locations that have been provided tonight.
And to piggyback on that, can we have have them provide, maybe an update or let us know what they're doing with the streets, like, you know, all the work that was done on Gavilan, the streets that are ugly.
Oh,
Oh, the patches?
The
patches,
Oh, yeah.
They're gonna be resurfaced.
Ugly.
it will be resurfaced. So the street already needed maintenance. So what Public Works was doing is they are installing the purple piping, which is the recycled water project. And before repaving, they were installing the pipes. So then now that they're done with the pipes, they can completely resurface everything rather than resurfacing, then cutting again to put the pipes in. So they decided to just continue to do the piping. They expect to start working on this repaving for Gavilan this year. So it's gonna be different for every street, but they know that Gavilan is probably gonna happen this
It's
year.
gonna happen wherever they did trenches, they're gonna resurface, like on Entrada, there's right in front of Rose Ferrero, there's trenches, all that road. all
Mhm,
that's gonna be resurfaced.
It's gonna be resurfaced. It's gonna be different timing for each street. I know that Gavilan is a big one that they knew that they needed to resurface even before the recycled water project. But now they took advantage of the fact like, okay, we have to repave. We might as well install the pipes right now so that we don't have to work on the street twice. So that's their strategy behind it. But we can definitely, if you have some Public Works questions, it can be more of an update or an informational presentation that we can coordinate with the Public Works Department and Director.
And there would be sidewalks too, right? So, yeah. So the same neighbor wanted to know what's gonna be done about the sidewalks where the tree roots have uplifted, you know, a lot of the sidewalks. And, you know, a different neighbor has elderly person that goes and walks with their little carrito. And so they were like, you know, what's the city gonna do about these lifted sidewalks? Because, you know, if my mom trips, you know, what's gonna happen? And they just said, we'll just go sue the city because they're not taking care of the sidewalks. I'm like, I'm a planning commission, we don't need to get sued, we just need to bring our issues and concerns to the city, you know, and see, I know that there's like ebb and flow and there's like you said, timing, you know, but I think several areas, not just our area, but in other neighborhoods, I do see a lot of those roots have uprooted. You've got, you know, sidewalk that looks like this,
Oh,
things like that, yeah.
On Gavilan, right in front of the high school, actually in front of the parking lot. There's a property that, I mean, it's lifted. It's not even like, okay, it's a little, it's this way, you know, like, okay, so
Maybe
you're going up and then you're going down and it's
Yeah.
like, this is not
Uh,
safe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be another Public Works item.
Yeah, what I'm hearing, I think maybe that I can request from Public Works and you can tell me if I'm capturing this correctly. But one is traffic calming strategies, because I know that speed bumps are a popular request. It's also sometimes hard to do because when they have reasons of why speed bumps are not always successful. It may be successful in the short run, but not in the long run. So what I'm hearing is some information about traffic calming strategies, then a street safety, because that will include the streets and the sidewalks, pedestrian safety and road improvement.
Oh, you know what? And I did have one other person ask about, they like the stop signs that light up with the solar panels. And they're wondering if that's gonna be something that's gonna be implemented over time across the city because they feel that that's a really good thing.
Okay. We can ask Public Works. Yeah, traffic calming, roads, and
And is this the forum to address it or?
residents, some of these concerns can go to City Council for public comment. If people feel comfortable reaching out to Public Works, they can also call Public Works. We also have an app for like the sidewalks. If people want to report, we also have, am I misspeaking? No, we do have the reporting app now, right?
Mhm.
Where they can report that it's a hazard. So people can also do that. Planning Commission, they can come and make public comment. I think because not all of the departments are included in these meetings, it's mainly community development.
Mhm.
It's more effective when they go to city council because then you have the directors from all of the departments.
Thank you. All right.
But we're always happy to take concerns and try to guide them in the right direction.
Appreciate it. And then,
Let's just thank you for all the work and I appreciate the progress report. Because I know we don't always get all the information and you know, it is important when people now have seen us for a couple of years, they know we're here. And then we get tapped out in public and we're like deer kind of headlights because we don't know what's going on. And I'm like, well, you're there. And I'm like, yeah, but that's not my purview, but I should be aware of what's going on. So thank you, appreciate it.
You're welcome.
For the problems. Right.
all right, so it is, if there's no other questions, comments or updates, it's 7:09. We'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good evening.
Thank you.